anyone here who didn't see your play in 2007 or in anywhere else, how close would you say your two versions are, your play and then the films, in spirit and in subject? I mean, were you looking to preserve the play when adapting it, or were you looking to go somewhere quite different with it?
Yeah, initially I didn't actually know it was a play. I remember seeing the film, and it was around the time I used to be on the film committee at BAFTA, and there was a special evening for Sir John Mills, and the week before I was talking with my brother about the films we loved as kids, and one of them was Spring and Port Wine, but the main one was In the Family Way with Hal Bennett and John Mills. And
the Bolting brothers.
Yeah, and we were just saying what a fantastic, because for us, John Mills was our father. I mean, that kind of dictatorial, patriarchal figure. And we used to kind of laugh about it all the time. And then the following week, I saw clips of Sir John Mills' movies. And then, the film came up, and it was the big scene between the family all discussing things. And I thought, it just feels like a play, this. And so I did a bit of research, and it was a play called All in Good Time, which Bill Norton had written, and because that play was based on a screenplay, a TV play that he'd done for Granada, which he hated, and decided to use the same material as a play, which he wrote into All in Good Time. And it was from that I kind of got in touch with the National, got in touch with me, and we kind of went from there.
I mean, you've had experience of adapting your own work for the screen before, yeah, with East is East. I mean, with this one, were you looking to preserve your own play by turning it into a film, or did it allow you to go down different routes, investigate different themes, update it in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I just initially I thought it would lend itself to an Asian family really well because of the dynamics of an Asian family and that family of that time, and also it allowed me to talk about Ishwar's past. Which we don't really get to hear about, that generation of men and what they kind of sacrificed to come to this country and their initial experiences. I wanted to really explore that, which I was able to do with both Rafter Rafter and the film. The great thing about being able to do the film as well, I had not only the original play to draw from, but I got to draw from the original film. And I wanted to put in all those kind of emotions and the fun that I felt as a child, as a 10-year-old watching that film.
Nigel, just to ask you, you came to make this shortly after making Made in Dagenham. Just curious to know, what attracted you to this story specifically? Was it the challenge in the way Made in Dagenham? You'd immersed yourself into East London, Essex in the late '60s, and a whole world, a world which you hadn't explored before. Was it that challenge? Was it that challenge again of immersing yourself in British India, or telling the story of the British Indian community in Bolton, exploring a world you hadn't explored before?
You never know what kind of makes you make a decision. I think ultimately it was a great piece of writing, and those are hard to come by in the film industry. Films are written by committees, they're written by lots of people, they're written by people who aren't really writers, and here was a script that was by a really great writer. And flatter you, but it is, and those are hard things to come by. And I think you were asking, Ayub, about translating into a film. I think what was in all of our minds while we were making this film is, in the translation, our primary concern was not to screw it up, really, because we knew the play worked, and we knew the play worked really brilliantly. And I missed the National Theatre production, but I saw a great production in Bolton, the Octagon Theatre where it's set, and you felt this incredible constant kind of shift in the audience where they were laughing and they were crying and they were intrigued and they were, they were on the edge of their seat. And so I thought, well, rather than reinvent this thing, we just have to kind of make sure we don't screw it up.
Mira, because you had the experience of being obviously both in the play and in the film we've seen tonight, I'd like to hear, from your point of view, what it was like making that transition. Did it feel like you were going back and playing the same character again, or was it obviously it is the same character, or going back and taking it somewhere different, being able to play with it a bit more, take it in other directions?
Essentially it felt, it is the same woman, and all the emotions and her journey were the same. It was fantastic to have another pop at it and have a different way of playing it, because obviously, seems obvious to say, but obviously in the theatre it's a very different kind of performance, and there's so much subtext and layer and secrets and lies and hidden agendas in this family that the chance to do that, to camera, I think gave us another dimension for performance, certainly.
I think one of, sorry.
So the details of the scene, what you can get from just kind of framing like that, the looks and the interaction between the characters is incredible for me as a writer to see, to be able to see what the directors kind of put into picture. It's so much, in many ways, it's so much more exciting than theatre, because you're able to put those relationships under a microscope.
And what was fantastic is that Nigel had such respect for the stage production, and that wanted to, capture everything that was great about that, and the fact that we'd had 9 months together as a married couple on stage, so we could bring all that subtext and to that.
Well, I have to say the scene in which Eshwar and Libha have sex through the wall is not in the play.
No, it's not.
I think that came as a bit of a shock to you. You were kind of right, okay.
Yes, I noticed I wasn't making any noise in it.
Harish, maybe...
I was told to make noise. Like a professional, I had to obey my job. Otherwise, if you actually, a man never makes noise.
Really?
I had to see so many things where he's making noise.
And
Harish,
these two
maybe you
young'uns,
could...
they spent about 2 days making noises, didn't you? We're constantly getting them to make noises.
Harish, Mira was saying how, having spent, was it 10 months on stage, doing the play, that you have all that subtext of playing...
94 shows to be precise.
Yeah.
So how many?
94.
94. You have all, you have the 10 months of playing a married couple on stage, which you can draw on. I mean, that's a very rare thing if you're playing a character on screen, isn't it? I mean, very often you don't get many rehearsals, or you get just a few days of rehearsals. Did it feel like you went into this film with a catalogue of research and experience, which is actually quite rare on a film?
No, I went because I had done plays, so it was not difficult for me. And as far as actually working in theatre or film is concerned, I agree with whatever Lopa said.
Right.
Somebody else brought up the subject of sex scenes or sex noises there. Anyway, the question for Rhys or for Amara. I mean, you have some of the least sexy sex scenes that I've ever, I think I've ever seen. I've certainly ever seen in cinema or ever committed to film, really. And they're not. You couldn't really call them sex scenes. They're more fumble scenes, really.
Yeah, nearly.
They're extended, and there's a number of them in the film. And obviously they are comic, but they also play into some very serious themes in the film as well. I'm curious to hear how it was playing though. I mean, were they amusing scenes to play? I mean, remembering that you're surrounded by crew and lights and studio.
Yeah, that's exactly it. On screen it's always going to be so different because we are surrounded by these burly men talking about the Arsenal game, and obviously in Atul's room, you only see that fourth wall, I think, once or twice, don't you? Generally, that was just filled with cameramen, and they flew that wall out, and so it was just us kind of rolling around in the bed. But the noises at the end, there's a story. I'd rapped for the day, and I was off back to my digs, and I'd got out of costume and all that business, and I got a call to set, and I said, well, I'm not in costume, I can't possibly, what are they going to shoot if I'm not in costume? I thought they were going to do like a close-up or something. And it turns out that I had to go to the corner of the studio and stand next to a sound man and do my best rendition of what I would sound like on the job, as it were. Nigel wasn't there. He didn't turn up that day. Nigel was too embarrassed. And me and this gentleman had to stand there, and it was awkward. Terrible.
I was...
No, after you.
I was lucky enough to have a conversation on Calendar Girls with Helen Mirren about shooting sex scenes. And I had quite a lot of conversation about sex with Helen Mirren. But, and she said something I'll never forget, and she just gave me a piece of advice. And she said, when you're doing sex scenes with actors in a film, you should never, ever just tell them to improvise. She said, it's so embarrassing. because you as an actor, you're going, well, this is what I do, but I don't know if anyone else does it. And should I do this now? And then it's about them as people, you know.
Not the character.
And she said a director must be very specific in sex scenes. You must say, you put your left hand here and you move it in this direction to there. And then it's not them do it. Then it's not embarrassing. Then they're doing what the director told them to do, and they're doing what is scripted rather than kind of, should I do this now? So I remembered that.
I always remember in rehearsal as well, because you obviously rehearse the scene, just the actors and the director before the crew come on, and you show the crew. And I always remember Amra and I getting into bed, as it were, and Nigel sort of finding a seat in the corner of the room and just sort of, okay, it's kind of weird, kind of bizarre.
Yes, it
Tricky
is.
stuff.
Amra, I mean, Nigel there was saying that he had those tips that he got from Helen Mirren in his head, specifically for the sex scenes. But like,
Yes.
from your point of view, how would you describe Nigel as a director? I mean, both in those scenes, but also generally as well.
Well, those were very useful tips, Nigel, from Helen Mirren. So I have to thank Helen Mirren for training Nigel to direct those scenes very well. But it was just wonderful. I mean, truly, I felt so relaxed, and it was such a wonderful environment to just come in and focus and do your best work. So, it was a real treat, and I think the chemistry between all the actors really comes off the screen, because we all were relaxed and we all really enjoyed working together. So whether it was a scene in bed or whether we were arguing or whatever scene we were doing, it was so work focused and relaxed, and I didn't feel self-conscious at all.
I think it helped. Obviously the house is a set that we built in a studio in East London, and we shot there for 4 weeks, I think, from day one. I think that really helped, because we just go to the same house every day, wouldn't we? It was like kind of, we'd all come round to this house. And it was, film sets are often very kind of disparate places where everyone's spread out, and you float in on set, do your bit and float off again. But it was like we stayed in this house together for 4 weeks.
I also have to say the fact that Nigel asked for rehearsal time, which is so rare on a film, and that we were able to we didn't improvise with your script, Ayub, I hasten to add, but improvised during rehearsals and built up family relationships. And with some directors, they worked out their shots and they just told you to stand there so you don't spoil it. And with Nigel, it was
haven't worked out my shots, so I can't do that.
Maybe because you've been an actor, I don't know, but there was such huge respect for the script and for the acting process, which I think shows, actually.